Welcome to Tech Q&A. What's in Tom's Homelab? There's a little bit less of a mess in my home lab right now. I embarked on the adventure of trying to figure out how to all those little projects, essentially, like all those. I was going to do that later. Well, everything you don't do later becomes something else harder to do later. Then later gets here, and well, you spend 12 hours rewiring everything because there's just no saving the mess you make. Like, I hadn't showed a picture of my lab in a while. I didn't really take any before pictures. It just looked like any other lab where everything's run across the sides and not like in a better manner. So I took some time to fix it. And I figured I'd do some Q&A. I thought again about, a lot of people ask about wires, and I realized from wires that had broken, things like that, I'm probably going to do like a short but dedicated video. Too long didn't watch which ones I recommend. You'll find them posted in my kit.co/lawrencesystems. Look for the Homelab stuff. We've got that all up to date now with the latest products and everything else in there. But yeah, no, great to be here with all of you. I will be sharing photos, of course, because why not? One of them that's interesting to me that I'll start with is, well, maybe I shouldn't start with it because it makes more sense if I start with what the rack looks like, which isn't a picture, and what's in it. And then, where did it go? Studio build. Got to get to the right set of photos here. Oh, is that the one I'm looking for? Where is the full rack photo? It's one of these. There we go. Here's one I can share. Add this to where it belongs. Always those little details. Because of all the things I unplugged, I had to reboot my computer. I was like ready to go live, and it suddenly camera wouldn't work. So I had to reboot the computer to get the camera. So yeah, we're getting the full rack photo. There we go. Two. Now we can share, present, share screen. That was way harder than it needed to be. Anyways, let's see. There's a closer up one. I mean, it's not anything amazing. This is my lab, therefore I take things apart a lot. So that's yeah. So the nicer one, like I have a tall one here. This is everything on the other side of the wall from me. That's on there, but this is not really. This is like my studio lab. This isn't the bigger lab. So there's not that much stuff in this one. Most of the bigger stuff that you see in a lot of the videos I talk about is we actually have 3 labs right now, and we're going to consolidate it down to one big lab in our Toledo office. So we're rebuilding that. What's the orange thing in the back of the rack? That is my home assistant. And it's just running on a little Raspberry Pi. And for those wondering, just because you always should be prepared, about once a year, I make an image of the home assistant and put it on another card. It's just a way that if the thing dies, and I try to do it more than once a year, but it says January, it's November. So I'm just going to be honest with myself of how long I take to get that done. But this way, if I ever need to, I always kept backups ongoing. But if the card dies, or it's Raspberry Pi 4, and I have a couple of Raspberry Pi 4s, if the card dies, Raspberry Pi 4 dies, I have a quick way I can swap it out really quick. So that's what this is right here. And I keep this in the back. I had it in the front in earlier photos. The reason it's not in the front anymore, too worried about someone bumping that little USB and breaking it and causing an outage. It's at the back. No one can really easily get to the back of this besides me, and no one else besides me wants to go behind this thing. It's in a locked room, separate. It's in my, as you can tell from the bigger photo, there's my furnace. So it's in the utility room. So you get the idea there, though. Yeah, but the thing that kind of surprises me about this, let me swap to a different photo view, is I have in here. Um, so this entire system is only running at about just under 500 watts. That's running two Synologies, one for NVR, one for all the other things I do with Synology, like active backup. I have two True NASs in there. So both of the True NASs are running, and they're this roughly the same spec like a True NAS Mini R. One backs up to another, and then they back up off-site. Same with the Synologies. The Synology surveillance station backs up to the other Synology, and then that data is sent off-site for backups. Then on top of that, I have, three switches in there. I have a, what is the other device I have in there? Hold on. It's a new enterprise gateway from, there we go. There's also, this is the enterprise gateway is in here. So I have that. That thing's actually kind of a power draw for that. I got my little Netgate 4200. Then these two PoEs, and you can't see it, but there's another 10 gig switch on the other side. But all that's 500 watts for everything I have running in there. So it's really, it's surprising how little wattage it uses for all of that. Is the 5G Flex the best UniFi cam for inside a house? Hard to say. I don't know really which one is the best. It really depends on what type of angle you're looking for. So it depends on the size of the room, how much coverage you're going to want. Obviously, more pixels are better, but more pixels cost more money. So you could get away with some of the lower end ones, but is it enough pixels to make you happy? And would you see something across the room? I really don't. I'm playing more with the UniFi camera system in the lab area. We have a UniFi camera system in my office. So, one of the buildings, our Southgate office, so I call it Detroit. It's in Southgate, Michigan, but we refer to it as Detroit office. The Detroit office has a UniFi camera system. The Toledo office has a Synology one, and I have a Synology one here at my studio/house because my studio is at my house. So that's it's hard to say exactly. It kind of comes down to your use case. Bearded IT Dad, I haven't forgotten talking to you. I because I got so caught up on my lab project, I kind of forgot about talking CompTIA, but we'll catch up and talk CompTIA. I'll message you on Discord. Let's see, throw a couple questions in here. If you have a server rack in your closet home office, do you think it needs venting or a fan to keep the temp down in the closet? Pretty likely, but depends on how much wattage you're using. So if you have some of the low wattage mini PCs or some Raspberry Pis, they don't generate a lot of heat. And it also depends on the load you put on them. So even if you had a mini PC, if it's under low load, it doesn't generate much heat because it's not using much wattage. So it's kind of depends on how many wattage going in. A lot of the wattage that goes in gets dissipated back as heat. So if you know how much wattage is going in, you can start thinking about like how much heat builds up in there. But heat buildup is definitely an issue. And some switches, depending on which ones you get, are going to be a little hotter than others, especially like PoE switches. So yeah, you may have to do some ventilation in there. Not an uncommon sight to have people put some fans to move some air once they put a handful of devices in there. Best way to track down a cause of a broadcast storm. If you look, one of the ways that I'll just do things like this. Let me just pull and share the screen because then we can jump right to it. See here. But if you start looking at the ports and you start just sorting by the data, you'll figure out really quickly which one's using a lot of data. And sometimes the broadcast storm one will shoot right up to the top of the list for just how much data it's going, especially when the data is not symmetrical. This is not symmetrical because the NVR is the NVR. But when you start looking at some of the other ones, if you see some really unusual numbers, and we've seen some that are way asymmetrical, like there's been a terabyte of data on this 10 gig port, but not going the other way. And then you're like, unplug that port. We did that for a customer. We were at, and they thought they were having a bunch of Wi-Fi problems, and they said the Wi-Fi was unreliable. They had a loop in their network. That's why it was unreliable. So sometimes it's just obvious things like that. Technically, I don't have any 3D printing officially. We have it at the office. We have several 3D printers at the office. I'm going to start using some of them. So eventually, yes, I'll get into 3D printing. I just don't know when that is. It's been on my to-do list for a while. Matter of fact, a couple of 3D printers. Someone, my wife bought me one, and then someone sent me another one, and so there's two of them at the office. They've been there for a couple of years. The employees have made all kinds of things. Lots of people make things. All the stuff, much of the stuff back here is 3D printed off of those printers. I'll just be honest. Tom has never once loaded the 3D printer. I've not turned it on. I've not done anything with it. I've always let my staff play with it. So happy Sunday. And yes, I am doing well. Other than a little tired just because of, rewiring everything. But I'm a very hands-on person, so it's kind of fun doing the whole hands-on to build all of this. For those of you that don't know, let me see if I can, I can go all the way to the beginning. I want to share this tab. The studio is something I built myself. So this is what it looked like 2 years ago now. So in 2 years, me and my friends just went through and framed it all in and painted it, and like we built the entirety of it. There's where the furnace is to get you an idea. Everything was a mess. There's the rack in the back when it was first dragged in here. This is the sound deadening that goes around all the walls. But yeah, bring it all the way around, and looks so empty. It looks so big like this. It's a decent sized studio, but this is closer to being done. Yeah, this is what it looks like right now. This is where I sit. For anyone that's wondering, this is what it looks like around me. Have you integrated Protect into Home Assistant? I'm torn between UniFi and Arlo cameras. So I haven't really tested Protect in there, but I do know I have the Synology in my Home Assistant. So there's the Synology integration. I've seen people talk about UniFi working fine with Home Assistant, but I would definitely go UniFi over Arlo. Can we run OpenVPN on pfSense using dynamic public IP? Well, you can. You just have to constantly know what that IP is to get back to it. So as long as you have something like dynamic DNS, which is built into pfSense, there's a lot of services you can connect to. If you're doing that, then absolutely you will be able to know where the IP is. And as long as that DNS is up to date, it should work fine. So you can do it on a dynamic IP. You just have to have a way to track it. Are you using Terraform and/or Ansible to deploy customer infrastructure? Me personally, no, but some of our team, yes. We have a couple special projects we do with customers. One of those special projects is deployed via Terraform. There's some functions of our company that are deployed for Terraform. We actually just did an Ansible playbook for a bunch of Arista switches. So there's sometimes niche, but not everyday cases. We're not a dev company necessarily. We have one niche, one client, really big client though, that we do that type of work for. It's not like our primary function as a company. It's a good night, so I'm assuming you must be in Europe because it's only, well, let's say it's 8 o'clock here, but I'm assuming you're in Europe, but thank you very much for the kind words. Hate all the corporation to have labs that basically are for show. And if you don't get approval, they freak out. You need to rewrite things. What do I think of Ring? I don't think Ring trusts. So Ring is simple. When you go to any of the cloud ones, I get the simplicity of it. The downside is you lose privacy, you lose control because they're in control of the system. So I'm not a big fan of like the Rings or any of the ones that connect to the cloud. The other problem with the connect to the cloud is the subscriptions, or in some cases, which has happened in a few different models, they'll go, that model's dead. Even though you owned it, you bought it. Sorry, it's not going to work anymore. The cloud has killed it. I don't think Ring is going to kill their door battle, but they may kill an older model and then force you into buying a new one. And if it's like, well, I'm not unhappy with this doorbell, and they're like, well, we're happy if you buy another one, so we're going to discontinue a model. That's the downside of any of the cloud ones. The upside, of course, is they're easy. Any tips on setting up a PoE camera, an open source NVR, or Blue Iris? There's not much out there in the open source NVR. There's Frigate, and I haven't used Frigate, but I don't know that Frigate's that great. I've heard mixed reviews on it. Last time I looked at it, it felt very incomplete. It's one of the reasons I'm not running the open source NVRs. When I played around with them, I use my cameras not for fun, but I actually really want to know when there's an event that I may need to see. And I don't trust any of the open source ones that they don't feel as fully developed, any of the ones I've used. Now, if I'm wrong and someone says, Tom, they finally flushed out insert name of the open source one, awesome. But I'm not aware of any. That's one of the reasons I use the Synology NVR at home. And at the office, we have a UniFi one. I think the UniFi one I really like the interface for UniFi. I think they've done a good job of making it easy. Non-tech question. What floor mat are you using and how is it standing up? This is one of those bamboo ones. I think it was in the photo. It's like a bamboo floor mat. You can pick these up at like Office Depot or one of those places. Like this, I seen it in the store and I said, hey, that looks nice. It's on sale. Then I bought it, and it's been right there for, I don't know, 2021, I think I built my studio. So 2 or 3 years, 2021 or 2022 is, I think, when I bought it. So works fine. I am using the UniFi access points. Currently, I have the U7 Pro Max and a U7 Pro wall. I don't think you need these for home at all. These, just to say that, I happen to have them because I have a lot of testing ones. Honestly, which one's this? I'm holding it 1 second. This is the U6LR. This one's really good. I think the U6LR is more than adequate for a house. And I just happen to have some of the fancy ones because I've been doing testing with them. But I have no problems when I was using the LR. The LR, I think, is still a really good device, but only because of testing, I'm using like the U7 Pro wall. That's a lot more expensive. Obviously, you can use it in your house. It's just not necessary. What's the best way to troubleshoot DNS problem? Having trouble getting to an internal, fully qualified domain and some devices? Not at all. Ping and look at the results is one of the first simple tests. Dig. I have a video where I dedicated to just showing you, like, I think it's, if you type in, let me find a video for you, but it's a troubleshooting. I have a few troubleshooting videos, and that's one of them. So let me throw this video in the feed. But that video is a walk you through the steps that I just threw in the chat. 2:50 a.m. in Cyprus. Nice. Nice rack. Got to get mine down to 1 rack. Yeah, it's still 2 for me. You're not going to get over 10 gig on something that doesn't support faster than 10 gig. So no, the UNAS Pro is not going more than 10 gig because it has a 10 gig adapter. And I don't think it's going to saturate the 10 gig. It's not that fast. I like my Nest, but if internet goes down, you can't use it at all. Dead in the water. Yeah, that's what I don't like about a lot of these. Thanks for being YouTube, sharing IT information. My other-in-law wants to have a camera system for the house, about 6 to 8 cameras. Tips or advice? Honestly, I think the UniFi stuff works really well, and it's inexpensive and it's easy to use. I don't have a problem really recommending the UniFi. We've deployed them, and I talked about this recently at large companies, but it works just as well for people wanting something in the home. Like, they've done a nice job of making it easy to use. Thank you very much for the donation. Just saying thanks for XCP-ng videos. Helped you a lot. Awesome. That is wonderful to hear. Sorry if I keep looking in two directions because the comments are off to the side when I'm looking at this camera. I use Z-Wave sensors and keypads linked to Home Assistant with the alarm integration. Works great for fully local control alarm. Can link Noonlight for police fire service as well. Yeah, I really like Z-Wave stuff. Z-Wave and Zigbee work great. Because a lot of people get concerned about things like, oh, I don't want to tie weird devices from wherever to my Wi-Fi. And I'm like, Zigbee and Z-Wave, all the things. They're inexpensive. They don't have to mess with your Wi-Fi. Matter of fact, while I was rebooting Wi-Fi and other things like that, none of my Home Assistant automations for lights at all had a problem because they're all working off Zigbee and Z-Wave. Yes. Watch my studio tour video. If you type in studio tour and look for the latest year, I should have one. I have one for 2024, I believe. And that way you can see the latest version. But I always detail out everything that I have. I try to do that each year. Oh, Omada is so buggy. I'm not a big fan at all of Omada. Like, I did the video and played with them, but the more we've worked with them, the more we find them to be a buggy solution. Now, the weird thing about the Omada is if you take them, because a lot of the TP-Link stuff supports its own local web interface. If you take it out of the Omada mode, it just starts working. It seems to work better without being connected to Omada. I don't understand, but I don't care. I kind of gave up on them. They just were not really much of a cost savings, but definitely more of a headache. I just didn't find them to be the most stable thing. pfSense multi-management thoughts. Yeah, it's coming. Hoping to get some systems moved over to it. I just haven't had a time to really test it. We don't switch clients to beta ever. That's unless there's some absolute weird request. Generally speaking, clients never get on beta. The only way to test is if you're on the beta. So I'm building some more lab stuff to have on beta. That way I can do the multi-management testing. Doug, thank you very much for a donation. Donations are greatly appreciated. What is the best Amazon Echo machine? I've never used an Amazon Echo, so I don't have an answer to that. Not one of the things I like or a big fan of. The U7 Pro series has some issues with the new iPhone. Interesting. I did not know that, especially Wi-Fi 7. Do you have the same issue? Apparently, the resolution is turned off 6 gigahertz. I don't use anything with the exception of a MacBook Air is the only Apple device I have. But one thing about the Apple, and this is just annoying. This is completely an Apple feature. Apple sucks at roaming. If you have an office, and we did this for a client, if you have an office full of Apple devices, they don't like to wander from access point to access point very well at all. And the reason why is actually because of the, what is that called? AirPlay. If you turn off the AirPlay service, they'll roam better. It's kind of a weird thing about Apple. And there's a bunch of people complaining about it. So if you type in like Wi-Fi roaming Apple AirPlay or something like that, you'll find people recommending to turn AirPlay off to get it to work properly. But of course, then you can't use there's certain features, I guess AirPlay being one of them. I don't know what else breaks when you do that. So I don't know. Apple does things a little strange sometimes. I mean, granted, they represent a pretty big part of the market, But when you talk about the wide variety of devices that all work with it, but then Apple doesn't, it's hard to blame UniFi. Doesn't mean UniFi won't do something to fix it, or there's not some type of tuning that needs to be done, but it's all things to consider. ZoneMinder was the other one I was trying to think of. ZoneMinder's been around for a long time. I just feel like it's a very incomplete project last time I looked at it. Like, it's novel, but it's not as easy to use at all compared to the other ones. Not to mention, I have full object tracking. I know when a motion detection versus a person detection versus a vehicle detection are all separate detections and have different actions that get built. I don't know if maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if ZoneMinder can do that. I know there's some ways to do it where you tie it into some object recognition. I think Frigate has an option to do that, but I don't know because I haven't used it. I think there's some people have some guides on there. Turn off private Wi-Fi address. Yeah, that's another thing. If you deploy iPhones in your environment, you have to switch that off with each deployment. Yeah, if not, they'll rotate MAC addresses. Do you have any advice on third-party cameras for UniFi Protect? I'm slowly converting to UniFi cameras, but slowly. I don't know because I haven't really tested it much because it's such a new feature that just came there. So I haven't tried using the UniFi NVR with my Amcrest cameras. There's compatibility, but then again, because my cameras have some smart detection features that do get picked up by my Synology, I haven't really had the desire to switch them. So that's going to be like an, touch and go type of situation. And it's going to be a lot of testing. Until there's a lot of testing, I'm not going to really know how well it works. Trying to figure out why this seems odd. It's showing that I have some latency, and it's been doing that lately, and I don't really know why. Well, not really. My latency seems really low. No idea. All right. I've never used UniFi Protect. Thought killing use UniFi cameras was very new. Like, in the last couple of weeks, they've released a feature to support more than just their cameras. So really cool they've done that, but like, it's a very new feature. So there's not a lot of information on it because testing has to be done. Just picked up an R740XD. Nice. I know over my current skill range, but I want to learn. I'm starting with Proxmox. I've experienced this old game PC, Proxmox unit advice. I just did a video on it. Make sure you get the RAID set up properly and understand how it's set up before you start using it. So if you set up the RAID on it, make sure you do your own testing, like pop a drive out, see what happens. Do that so you have some understanding of how that works with the XD, and that you're understanding how drive mapping works to whatever operating system. In your case, it sounds like Proxmox is on there. Because if you don't know how that works, you're going to have some trouble with it. If you don't want to be in an emergency situation like, hey, all my data's here, I haven't backed it up. So I always really encourage, especially because you're just setting it up, get it to a base level of running. Start ejecting drives. See if you can solve for a problem. You want to simulate a failure before there's a failure because you're not familiar with the hardware, so that we can get in there, understand how the RAID array works, or depending on which model you have. I know it's an XD, but like which configuration you have, the system may be able to produce a virtual drive out of a group of drives, and making sure you know how to manage it through the Dell iDRAC is important. Make sure you know that before there's a bunch of data on there. What do you need for a UniFi setup? Well, the good news is you got to start with how many cameras, and camera. Is it under storage calculation? There is some lookups. I'm looking if I can throw it in the screen here. They have like a capacity calculator for, there's their gateways. Thought they had a camera calculator. I just got to find, if you look, there's a page that kind of tells you like the UNVH standard and what you're looking for. And this is on this page here. I'll zoom it in and make it a little easier to see. That probably didn't help. Anyways, as you go down their list, you see how they've got how many cameras, like 18 4K cameras will work on this, 24 4K cameras on this one. So it comes down to which model you want will be driven by how many cameras you have connected to it. Then from there, you could just pick up all their cameras. They have a whole design center for doing all this. So you can look at all the different models they have. They have quite a variety too. It's pretty cool. Your 2K cameras, 5K camera, AI Pro. Their AI DLSR. I want to test these one at some point. These look kind of neat. They're new DSLR cameras. Getting all my letters mixed up. I want to move my UniFi camera to an external NVR. Good news, you can absolutely do that. You can migrate it from wherever you have it. You can migrate it between NVRs. They make it, I think, relatively easy to move the cameras too. If you're familiar with Kubernetes clusters, what would you recommend as modern start guide? I don't do Kubernetes, so I don't have a modern start guide for Kubernetes for you. You know, I haven't tried the talk phones. Phones are one of those things that I'm always hesitant on because even when you think you're recommending a good service or reliable service, people really get angry when their phones don't work. And I'm just someone who kind of is happy when the phone doesn't ring. And I don't even have an extension anymore because I just do Zoom calls. But I know I don't represent the rest of the world because they seem to really like phones. So I've not spent much time with their phones because I'm just not looking at it as a serious solution. And I wouldn't be able to give you an effective review of it because I just don't have anyone that I'm aware of that's at scale deployed it. So I don't have any feedback at all for them. I wish, yeah, it'd be cool if the Frigate was good enough. Last time I looked, it didn't have all the features, and that's hard. I mean, I'm a big open source advocate. Someone got mad because I talked about something that wasn't open source, and I thought that was a funny comment, but I'm like, sometimes I have to use non-open source solutions because there's not an open source solution that fits, and I still have a need for the thing. No, I do not think, I know there's been a lot of talk about this, that some models are, some models aren't. But as of right now, to my knowledge, there is no official statement from UniFi that their cameras are NDAA compliant. So if you have a requirement of NDAA compliance, you're going to have to look elsewhere. Because that I know of, there is no, there's just nothing that I've seen in writing from UniFi. I've seen talks in forums, but nothing. I can't point to the page. Therefore, I don't know what the status is. So I'll assume not. Because if you have that compliance, you generally brag about it. Does Tom have opinions on Frigate and ZoneMinder? Other than other than I feel they're incomplete. Have you had a chance to build an opinion of the G5 PTZ? It's a nice camera. We deployed those at one of our clients, and they love it. I got to play with it. I was really impressed. If you watch my chemical factory video, I show the big PTZ camera. It's neat. It's expensive. It's got really, really good quality. Oh. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. A lot of the things like Frigate, they show great promise. I see where they want to go, but it seems like there's not enough developers in the community to push that forward. That's kind of my feeling. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people, Teams is one of them. There's the other VoIP services are pretty robust, and So it's hard. It's kind of weird that UniFi is in the phone game to me. So any plans for creating a getting started with PF sensor true NAS? Yes, both of those coming soon. I was waiting because despite what I've seen, I'm waiting for the PF Sense 2.8 to drop because we're so close to it. That way I can do it with like the CE and the Plus version at the same time. That way I could say, hey, these features are available, blah, 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 and do the getting started video. My old getting started video doesn't look that much different because PF Sense hasn't changed dramatically, but it is different because it was 4 years ago that I did that video. So whether or not I'll have it out super soon, I don't know, but I'll have it out relatively soon. Because I haven't done this. You are correct. I have not done that in a while. See, hold on. I think I know why it's slowing down. Can I turn that off? Because I have 2 of these on. I wonder if I can turn off so it doesn't do the recording. Nope. Doesn't appear. Oh, well. If UniFi keeps up with how they're going in security space, there'll be a good middle ground between basic NVRs, enterprise VMS solutions. Yeah, I think they are making a real dent in there because I got to preview stuff that I can't talk about just yet. I get to see a preview of their roadmap essentially at the Ubiquiti event. They asked us not to cover it in detail because they want to release it in their own terms. That's fine. But what I will say is they have a lot of features in the pipeline that are really cool that are coming out. And I think that's great. So I like the fact that they are really moving the bar forward and their cameras are the next couple, I would say the next few months, they didn't give us a timeline, but I would say maybe in a few months because the product looked pretty cool. The enhancements and updates to the software for existing UniFi NVRs is going to be quite nice. You just do a new one, the latest Netbox release, really cool stuff they're doing with it. Yeah, Netbox is really neat. When we build the new lab, I want to build it and use Netbox to auto document the lab. So that is on my to-do list. I think Netbox is definitely, like you said, a really neat product for doing it. I guess at one time, it wasn't me. Some of the other guys had set up a Netbox box and then broke it. And so somewhere there's a broken Netbox box in our lab. So it's not in my part of the lab. We're building a convergence of labs to make all this happen. Any chance of showing your PDU outlet setup for future videos? I want to build or hear 220 is more efficient. I'm not doing a 220 setup. So you won't, 220 is great. We have 220 in some of the data center installs. I don't have 220 is just not that available. It requires extra cabling if you're building it at your house. It requires extra cabling to build it in most offices because most offices don't have a 220 setup. So my system is not a 220. It is just a little APC with a cyber power for distribution. So not anything particularly special here. This is one of the newer APCs with, I believe this is a lithium ion one. I can't read the model number from here, and I don't remember the model number. So nothing really fancy. I do like these cyber powers, by the way. I do have, I think, the cyber power in my kit.co list. And the nice thing is the cyber power is just nice, clean. There's plugs on both sides. There's plugs in the front, plugs in the back. Matter of fact, there's so many plugs on the back. I only needed to use one in the front. Can you recommend a 2.5 gig PoE switch for access points? Someone will be mad because I recommend UniFi too much, but I think they make a really affordable switch. If you want to learn though, some of the quirks and ins and outs, the MikroTik ones aren't bad. Just the MikroTik ones are a lot harder to configure. UniFi versus AliExpress cameras versus Verkada. Yeah. Yep. I'm pretty sure it's yeah. Okay. So the color gives it away as the lithium ion one. I know, I'm pretty sure it is because it was pretty light, but I installed it several years ago, so now I've forgotten. Yeah. If you're in the UK, you guys have a better power system over there. I'll admit it, it's better. And I imagine at least a few of you have watched Technology Connections and his rant about it being better. He's right. Especially on he talks about how everything just heats up faster there. You're completely right. 220 is better. My business partners agreed on $1,000 test setup. We ordered Ultramax 256 gig NVR, 616 PoE. Cool. What's up from Wisconsin? Yes, the higher voltages also convert better, more efficiency. Yeah, we know it's superior. But I didn't try to rewire my, most things are just the only thing that's high voltage, well, more than, I should say, not really high voltage. My hot tub is 220 and my Tesla is 220. Nothing else in my house runs at 220. I mean, it wouldn't be hard other than I'd have to get some, I don't know, I have to look up. Engine APC supports 220. I could rerun it. I have a 30 amp circuit hookup for, that's how my Homelab is actually hooked up, is with a 30 amp circuit. I did run a dedicated circuit. I just didn't run a dedicated 220. Do I have a picture of it? No. Somewhere. Did you ever have a Gen 1 40 port 500 watt PoE switch? And if so, what was your thoughts? We had the only ones I think that were ever a problem, and I heard this secondhand. We actually have one still in use today, that's been running for years. The 16 port PoE first gens used to run really hot. Do you know, I can look something up here. I am curious because now I'm curious if it's still on and running. All right. Well, this is interesting. I'll share the screen. Let me find out. Does this have a year? I installed this in like 2018 or maybe 2019. So this is a client site and it's still running right now in there. So yes, they definitely hold up better, pretty good. That's a 16 port PoE driving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 access points. And it's been, I mean, it's an install video I partially posted because we never got to finish the whole video of it. I mean, the job got done, the video didn't get done. And I'm pretty sure it was 2018 when I installed it. So 6 years, I've had one of those 16 port first generation running. So yeah, they definitely hold up. That's interesting. It's been my experience. I mean, we wouldn't keep selling them if we kept to keep replacing them, because generally our relationships are long term with our clients. Is your audio slightly out? I don't know. I don't listen to myself, because if I turn myself on, there's about 3-second delay. So I'd end up with a loop. You're starting to get some Gen 1 switches and PSU fails. I mean, I've had very few people contacting, but most of the ones we installed, I mean, those were over 6 or 7 years ago. I mean, it's been a while since those were out. So, but it kind of probably depends on where they're at. If you're in a high dust, high dirt environment, the fans get dusty, they're going to overheat. This particular client, it's a sports place and it's on the second floor where their IT room is. And I think they have a mini split in there to cool it. So it's in a nice temperature controlled room. But yeah, if any switch that gets filled up a lot more dirt is going to be, yeah. How big is my backlog of videos? I don't even know how to describe that. I round robin through projects. That's a lot of what I do. So as far as like, I just keep cranking out ideas. So I'm always about at least 10 ideas ahead that are sketched out, 100 ideas in my head. But once I start the process of this is the idea, I start a file on each one of them where I start building the narrative for it, all the things that need to go into the video. So there's usually about 5 or 6 in the pipeline at any given time that are like in some type of narrative phase, or sometimes project videos I don't do as many of because they're just so hard to do. What I do with the project video is you start pick up all the, hey, let's take a bunch of pictures and grab a bunch of B-roll and eventually assemble it. Some of those projects, like the chemical factory project I did, that started in November. November of last year. The video got published in November of this year because it took a long time to get the install done because we were waiting for electricians to build a building infrastructure that we could attach to. So there was like functional parts of the building weren't finished, electricians weren't done. So we did our part, but couldn't finish our part. So those are why infrastructure videos, they have like a really long tail. It's rare we get an infrastructure project that goes really, really fast, unless it's an already done building and it's a really small one. But at any given moment, I just have a lot of videos essentially in the queue. My video is slightly ahead of the audio. Interesting. Someone suggested that you may want to refresh the page. So yeah. Maybe that'll fix the audio sync issue because not everybody seems to be seeing it. Thank goodness for ADHD brain. Pretty much. That's what this is for me. You guys just bring me in different rabbit holes and throw things at me, and I grab them and just talk about it. That's why this is so much fun for me. I'm never bored on a live stream. I'm like, bring all the questions. Send Tom down all the rabbit holes at once. Have you ever had to do clients that didn't finish proper area to install equipment? No AC, broom closet. How'd you deal with it? If you supported. Watch my what is that? The worst cabling job ever is probably what it's titled. And that video is like just disaster that we did finish that was not done properly because of them. You just deal with it, you roll with it. Like I tell them I'm not supporting it. If it's something we're supporting, if it's not going to be installed right, we won't do it. We'll drop a client. People like, well, I'm not going to do this, or it's just same easier example and more common one is, well, I'm not doing 2FA. Well, then you're not our client. Sorry. We're not making this an option for you. You will do these things, or you cannot be our client. Those are options. How much graduation have your glass? I don't know. I don't even know my own prescription. My doctor knows the prescription. So I don't know anything about glasses other than I wear them. I only need them to see things close to me. Spent hours hunting down partitions and SSDs that are not properly aligned. Glad I did. Found several. Weird. Thanks for the videos on TrueNAS. So I'm glad you appreciate them. Got an SG-1000 given to me, pfSense, but the 1100 seems slow to me. I have a pfSense old workstation. It's light speed. Yeah, the 1100s aren't particularly fast. And I still have, for anyone who's never seen one, this was the original 1000. They were so cool. They were red. This was the original 1000 one. So kind of novel. Just a neat little box. But yeah, the 1100s are never very fast. Yes, absolutely. I would say among my favorite for learning some more of the things that are a little bit more advanced is Mr. Alex Tech. And the other one is they put his, I'm going to drop a link to him because he's got some good tutorials. It is, he's on YouTube, JRTV, I think that's his site. The link is in, I think I may be reading it wrong. I've learned a lot from his. I think I bought his course as well. Turned out after I bought his course, he emailed me because he's like, I like your YouTube channel, Tom. I was like, oh, because I didn't get into using DaVinci Resolve till a couple years ago. So yeah. Yes, I was at IT Nation a couple weeks ago. Matter of fact, I was even up on stage giving talks. There's Tom and Jason giving a talk on AI. So I was definitely at IT Nation there. And among the weird things is while I was there, I got to talk to this guy. Some of you might recognize him. Did I ever test Meraki Go? Yeah. I think Meraki Go is garbage. Would it be possible to have 4 sites using UniFi Dream Machine Pro SE site to site all set up and have UniFi cameras at all 4 locations and one shared MVR at one location? I don't think you can do that. I don't think that works. I don't think you can, there's any way to, I mean, you can put them all to the UniFi cloud and switch between them, but that I know of, maybe I'm wrong, but that I know of, you can't create one view, even though they're across all the other places. But via the UniFi cloud app, essentially, you're able to switch between sites. PF Sense question. I run a advanced DC setup with PF acting as the main router. I run PF Sense CE, multiple VLANs with all public IP subnets assigned. We're switching to PF Plus if I don't need their support. It's not going to, if you're not going to use any of the features. Now, I like the PF Sense Plus, but functionally, if you're not using any of the features, it's not going to make a difference. The cool feature they do have with PF Sense Plus, of course, is the boot slices, essentially using ZFS snapshots to be able to do things. I think that's awesome. So that I like. But yeah, I can't, like, outside of that, if you're not going to use the feature, then you don't really need it. It's up to you. But yeah. Favorite 2FA and self-hosted SSO. I don't use any self-hosted SSO. So I don't have a favorite because I don't use any of them. The favorite 2FA is actually TOTP. I like things that have TOTP. You still need to see live traffic. Well, I mean, they have the ability to do Wireshark. So that's, well, not Wireshark. They can do, I say Wireshark. They can do packet captures that you can dump into Wireshark. Are you trying to talk about, like, I guess I need to know what live traffic view and give an example of how you want it to look. TrueNAS, that'd be something to flash on a QNAP. Yes. Yes, I should have the Nmap video done soon. I got behind doing a few other stuff. Tom actually has perfect vision like Superman, and the glasses are just to protect his secret identity. Yes. Oh, cool. I saw you. Sorry I didn't say hello. Hey, no problem. He tell me he looks like Tony. It's a Pizza Hut guy. Oh, yeah. I mean, I had it said Tom Lawrence on my badge, but yeah. I mean, you can site to site. Technically, this is a solution, but it's not a great one. Running cameras over a VPN sucks. The resolution is definitely not good enough. Looking to downsize my lab, I currently have an R620 and R720. Think of getting an ASRock X600 or with an AMD, some NVMe SSDs. Any experience with the X600? I don't know if I have any experience with that particular board. Which ones am I using? Let me look. I've done a Ryzen build before, and I did use, they've been great. I have the ASRock X570. I have 3 lab servers I built with the X570. They've been running for several years, no problem. And I think they work really great. So the X570 is good. I'm sure their newer generations are better. So hopefully I don't have any direct experience using them though. Thank you very much, Kevin. I greatly appreciate the super sticker there. Have you played with the Ubiquiti NAS yet? Yes, I have. So the Ubiquiti NAS is slick. I think it's pretty neat. And what I'm going to do is I need to get a drink. I met Tom at Wild West Hacking Fest. He's super approachable, always seemed happy to speak to everyone, and I am. Matter of fact, I apologize. Usually the first video I do a live stream, I start by apologizing, going, for anyone that said hi to me, and then I wouldn't shut up. Sorry. that is a likely scenario that does happen. I try to stop myself, but someone that I talk a lot sometimes, so so yes, I try to be very approachable. I like when I meet people. I like usually it's easy to get lost talking to people because they want to talk to me about something they've seen in a video, and I like talking about things. That's why I put them on video. Jason's very approachable as well. Jason Slagle, great guy to talk to. So absolutely, reach out and talk to him. But I need more water. So I'm going to grab more water and I'll be back in just a moment. Let me, where'd that banner go? I always forget where it is. Is it under, I have a be right back thing. So, all right, I'll be right back. There we go. All right. Let's see. Ubiquiti NAS, that's where we were at. And I was logging into that. So hold on. Let me close all the things. Log into the UniFi NAS and I'll pull it up. So, yes, I have been doing some testing with it. Let me find a more interesting screen than that one. So can I just share what I can or can't show? I just don't feel like showing the email address I have it registered to. Oh. Okay. Anyways, it's an interesting product. And my initial thoughts are it's really just pretty good in terms of like they hit a good price point on it and it's rack mounted. And I think it's a pretty reasonable device. It just does NS and it does have NFS, I noticed, but I haven't tested that. SMB, it's got some backups. It's running ButterFS on the back end. Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty much like a basic NAS for the price. Someone said it was overpriced, and I'm kind of looking at it going, I don't really think of it as overpriced because right now, UniFi UNAS. At $499, I can't tell you, I couldn't make a parts list easily that would be a rack mounted NAS build with 7 bays and a 10 gig connector for $499. That's it. That's its selling point. The other selling point is it's really quiet. It's on the bench over there. And I mean, there's not a way for me to tell that it's on the bench over there. It's so quiet. Oh, you work with Jason on a Linux project? That's pretty cool. What's the minimum storage SSD needed for Proxmox RAID? I imagine any 2 drives. Jason is your favorite person to get imposter syndrome from. Fair. Yeah, needs more water. I did get a water, and on the way after getting the water, I walked by the beer fridge and I said, lemonade sounds good. So we got ourselves a little come on, focus. There we go. Little lemon shandy. So I have some lemonade now. I think people think it's underfeatured as they forget it's just a NAS. Yeah, this is the thing. People want a NAS that's rack mounted, has 7 drives, a 10 gig connector, and also think that it should run every one of their applications and be less than $499. Because when I posted it, I think there's several people who were commenting that they thought it was overpriced. I'm like, $499 is actually pretty reasonable price for what it currently does. And I mean, I'm just used to what things cost outside of the used market. Generally speaking, a NAS can be a pretty expensive adventure. And so $499 to me is like, that's not a bad price for what it does do. I'm whether or not they do, because there's people complaining they don't have Docker on it and stuff like that. But I'm like, how much, this doesn't have much horsepower to run Docker. But I mean, maybe Sync Thing would be cool on it, right? because you want to sync some data to it, but I don't know. Do you have any video series about hardening servers to safely expose them on the internet? There's not really anything you can do to safely expose them. You can use things like CrowdSec. I usually have hardening videos on each individual particular server, but I also tell people just quit exposing their servers to the internet. If you're going to run a UniFi controller, for example, maybe you want to run something like CrowdSec on it, so you can block some of the IPs, but there's not a ton you can do outside of that. There's not a lot of other hardening. You can put a web application firewall in front of it. I have, well, I see you could. Actually, for like the UniFi controller, I don't recommend exposing the management interface. So my hardening guide would be back to don't expose it. Yeah, the Synology 2-bay is also, I mean, what does the Synology 2-bay go for now? Like the disk station. Yeah, okay. So the disk station, the 2-bay disk station is slightly less than a UniFi, but not by a lot. And the UniFi is a 7-bay. So yeah. The fact that the 2-bay, I'm looking them up here, I mean, they're about the same price for 2-bays. So I would definitely say that price is good. The price is good. Feature wise, I mean, this is, yeah. Let's see. Wasn't it the free and pay version of Proxmox? Any bells and whistles or just security updates? You get their, as far as I know, you get their security updates and their repository updates. They have it on here. I don't use Proxmox, so I'm not as familiar with it. I use XCP-ng. Is it good to virtualize true NAS? Absolutely not. I highly recommend you not do that. I feel like I've rescued people from this scenario many times. Yeah, people seem to break it a lot when they virtualize it. You put your data at risk. You end up with, unless you're very familiar with it. Most of the time, people asking are not as technical and not as familiar with it. So generally speaking, no. If you're asking, I hate to say it that way. If you're asking, probably it's not a good idea. I don't even think it's a good idea, and I know how to do it. Yeah, using VPNs is the best way. Put everything behind a VPN. So why did you ultimately decide on XCP-ng versus Proxmox? One of the things I point out with XCP-ng, and it's not that it can't be done in Proxmox, it just is a lot harder to do. And let me pull up my lab. Essentially, one of the things that, like I have, well, this is not the best one. Let me pull up a different lab that has more things in it. So if you go here to this pool, and you see all these networks, right? There's, I don't know, 21 VLANs to find in here. So with 21 networks to find, most of them VLANs, as I add a bunch of systems, they all inherit the settings from the pool. Everything is built around the concept of resource pools. There are resource pools in Proxmox, but they work differently. It's not like resource pool centric. So when you're building and scaling outward and you have a lot of hosts, you don't have to do much to the host. The hosts, as the phrase is, can be treated like cattle. You can just bring them in, throw them out, destroy them, bring them back in. All the settings are in the pool spread across the hosts as opposed to having to configure each host. This makes it really fast for large scale setups. It's a really slick system for doing that. That way I just define each resource only at the pool level, and it inherits across the entirety of all the hosts. That's one of the reasons we like it. We do large projects, and because there's the scale they operate at, this just works really well. Proxmox for a single host, yeah, doesn't even matter at all. So if you're running one, maybe two Proxmox hosts, not as relevant. When you have 30 hosts and 1,000 VMs, it changes. And because we scale up to large infrastructure with our clients, we need something that I know can scale to large infrastructure with our clients. I've had people kind of tell me that you can do this for Proxmox. I've never seen anyone with a very large, I've never seen it myself. I've had people tell me in comments on YouTube they're running a big Proxmox cluster. It's like the reply. I'm kind of a show me person, and I know a lot of people in the tech industry, and I don't know anyone of my technical friends that I interact with that are running any large scale Proxmox that I've got to like really see it. So I don't have the confidence in Proxmox. I think it's a good system. It's not bad, but I don't have the same level of confidence in it. XCP-ng. Let's see. Would you recommend to have a virtualized PF-Sense as a backup for Homelab? I mean, it's I guess could make a backup. Generally, hardware doesn't fail that often. So even like I like the Netgate hardware, that's what we deploy to our clients. But I get it in a Homelab, your budget may be different than that. Even a lot of those mini firewalls just seem to last a long time, as long as you have a good hard drive in them. So a good backup is probably like putting a good drive in them, because if you buy some of the cheap ones, they ship with garbage drives in them. Outside of that, they seem to last a long time. So it's not been a big concern. Multi-tenancy with XCP-ng is different too. Distributed switching of VMware and XCP-ng, the vCenter setup, they're very similar in the way they work. Proxmox works functionally different, but the way the resource pools are tied together, it seems easier for people who are already familiar with VMware to understand it because of the commonalities between the structure. What's a good monitoring for remote receiving alerts from your home network? I mean, what kind of alerts do you want? I like Graylog because I can log things, build alerts off the logs. Then there's also something simple like Uptime Kuma. Uptime Kuma can send you, hey, this thing was pinging and now it doesn't ping anymore. You might want to know that. So Uptime Kuma is a good one too. It kind of depends on how extensive you're trying to go. Can you have a mixed XCP host with the same amount of CPU count, RAM, and storage? Yeah, they don't have to be symmetrical completely. Nicer if they are, but it's not a requirement. Matter of fact, the setup I have, this is the one I'm running right now. These are two completely different hosts. I mean, they both have Ryzens in them, but they're not exactly the same. So you can have mixed ones and it works. Yes, there's a lot of XCP-ng at large scale in Europe. If XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra GUI built into install, I doubt you'd get any questions comparing them. That's where they're going with XO-Lite. XO-Lite's been taking a while to get there, but yeah, XO-Lite kind of answers that questions. Oh, so you did some of the cyber drain CTFs? I love Kelvin. Outside using Tailscale, when I write IPv6 address, my Jellyfin server doesn't work until I turn on exit node with the IPv4. What could that mean? Probably some problem with the way IPv6 is set up on there. I don't use IPv6, so I'm not sure. Ooh, you wrote a Zabbix connector for ConnectWise and CloudStack. Neat. Yeah, Zabbix is awesome. If you want to get into Zabbix for monitoring and notifications, Zabbix is amazing. It's a little bit complex to learn, like from ground zero to uh, getting it fully functional. But I used to run Zabbix for a while. I thought it was great. I think Portainer's nice. I have one system running Portainer. I got to set up another dockage system. That reminds me. That's what I wanted to play with. Roll backwards 20 minutes ago, Tom. What are some of the videos in the pipeline? Dockage. I think dockage is pretty cool. You can find some documents out there, but Portainer's neat as well. I never did a video on Portainer, but I think Portainer's a pretty neat option. I think Portainer makes the networking a little bit more manageable if you're not familiar with the command line managing of networks. But I like the way dockage was more simple. The simplistic nature of dockage made it really neat. Of course, Portainer having one instance and a bunch of nodes you can load on multiple systems for it. For example, you could have your one main Portainer system, and then you can also have it connected to several others that are lighter weight, such as Raspberry Pis. And then you have one central management for all your Docker instances. So there's some cool things you can do with Portainer that you wouldn't be able to do with dockage. But kind of comes down to what's your use case. Are you trying to manage one system or many systems? Do I do mentorship? I make YouTube videos because that scales really well. People can watch my videos and learn on all kinds of different things. I just turn off IPv6. I'm debating on open sourcing the connector, as Zabbix doesn't really have one for ConnectWise right now. I mean, the thing about open sourcing it is it would bring more popularity to it. So if you get more popularity to it, then yeah, that's kind of a cool reason to do that. Yeah, the dockage, it's just easy. Once you've played with dockage, you're like, oh, this is just nice. And it's written by the same person who put together Uptime Kuma. So they have that similar design simplicity and like just going to make a really simple thing work well. Steve Gibson on Security Now did a really good breakdown of, I think it was 2 episodes ago, one, maybe 2. I can't remember. I should find it. And he was reading someone else's notes about why IPv6 adoption got this far and not all the way. And it was just a lot of insights. The fact that IPv6 solves a problem that's already been solved and doesn't add any new features. So there's not really a push for businesses to use it. And every time you find more bugs in it, it makes businesses and tech people who have too much to do and not enough time to do it just turn off IPv6 for any of the headaches that get created with it. Yeah, I mean, not just NAT. NAT killed it on one side, but the other side was the fact that look at the way SNI works. Used to you needed the concept was we'll just have an IP address for every website. Well, no, once we got SNI and multi-hosting off of a single IP and can have all the certificates, we solved that on the other side. End of story. There's not any more push for IPv6 after that. Yeah. NAT killed it and CGNAT buried it. That's probably true as well. There's just not the demand to solve. It's not a problem that it bothers home users that want more IP addresses. So that's not a business use case for IPv6 for people to update all their infrastructure to be able to support it at that scale. Oh yeah, cell phones are deployed as IPv6, and then they use a translator to get it back down to IPv4. Yep. Yeah, but I would open source it just to get more people using it because then you end up with more development around it, other people wanting to contribute to it. There's probably a few people out there tying together Zabbix and ConnectWise. I was going to say too, the other the other thing that would happen if we actually were to get more towards IPv6 is the unmitigated disaster of security where everything is just exposed everywhere. that'll end well. We have enough problems with people exposing IPv4 stuff. Give them IPv6 and they'll just go wee and just open it all to the internet. Look, I can have everything. My toaster, my IPv6 toaster and fridge and dryer and washer are all on the internet now directly. What could go wrong? Yeah, it's an interesting market out there for sure with all of them. Even if it really does happen, I don't ever see it happening in the internal SMB space. Yeah, there's not a push for it. Businesses are driven by technological efficiency. That efficiency has to bring them a return, as in, hey, it took this much labor to get something done. The technology decreased the labor. Awesome. So now we have less cost involved in making the widget. IPv6 doesn't make widgets cost less. That's until there's like a use case where the IPv6 directly can make the widgets that people are making cost less. There's not a big push in the business to do it. As I kind of hinted to earlier, most techs go, I'm going to turn it off because it created some headaches for me and I ain't got time to solve that. So until it makes the widgets cost less in some way, there's got to be kind of a direct tie-in. That's the motivating factor. Like businesses wouldn't use computers if they didn't make them more efficient. The adoption of technology, it always comes at the point where there's an application for usage. Electricity existed for a while. There wasn't a killer application for electricity until someone goes, I got a bright idea. Let's use lights. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, lights. That was your killer app. That was your feature of electricity. Like, hey, electricity's been around for a while, but now it lights things up and we can, move the bar forward with it. So that's any technology for adoption, it needs to have that use case for the business and then it goes forward. My problem is internal DNS routing and IPv6 is wholly complicated from zero benefit. Yeah. Don't know if they're still doing, but there's a program at Aaron giving out IPv4 blocks for free if you were starting an ISP. And they do hand out IPv6. Yeah, because they have lots of IPv6. There's also, this is a fact. I mean, I know the IP address of everything in my network. I don't have DNS set up on a lot of things. So it's easy to remember a handful of IP addresses. Like I'm curious right now what my TrueNAS is doing. So it does my TrueNAS 172.16.16.4, and let's log into it. I'm curious how long, how's the data scrub going on it? Let's go ahead and look at our data set here. Like I can rattle off the IP addresses. Oh, I'm 70% done on scrubbing. Where'd that go? There you go. Good news is there's no errors. Look at this. 2 hours remaining on scrubbing. Good night from Mexico. Awesome. Thank you for joining. You have a wonderful rest. No, my servers are not named from Greek or Roman gods. This one is named, well, the flashy Guess what kind of storage that is? I have the flashy storage and I have the rusty storage. Because I'm clever at naming things, apparently. We're scrubbing rusty. Rusty takes a long time to scrub because there's 20 terabytes of used data on there. 20 terabytes is a decent amount of data. That's all my videos. Not all of them. A lot of them. I purged a lot of them. Yeah, mostly videos more than anything else. Videos and virtual machine backups. I'm pretty boring. There's not much fun in there. There's not much games in there. Matter of fact, there are games floating around in there because when I switched computers, I never rebuilt my gaming server, and the game server's taken apart, laying on the floor over there. It's been like that for about 6 months, maybe 4 months. Yeah, I did it just before July, coming up on 6 months. So I don't game much. So there are some Steam library downloads, but I'll probably purge them out of there. But I think they make up like a terabyte, maybe that much. I guess this is how I can answer that. How big is The Witcher? I have The Witcher and Destiny. Those are the 2 games I played it for a while. I got bored. What NAS are you using for your flash storage? I'm actually using I'll pull up the dashboard here. This is a TrueNAS Mini R. So sorry to disappoint you if you're thinking I had something really fancy. Nothing too fancy. Matter of fact, this is not a particularly fast server. I got a picture of it though. Where's the picture at? Where did it go? I can pull up what's inside of it because I took a picture. I opened it up to see if there's any dust inside. So it's a really little motherboard. Actually, I like it because it's low wattage. Like probably my biggest reason in driver for a lot of things is, I talked about this earlier, even the rack full of stuff I have is only using under 500 watts. That's because these are not particularly fast, but I edit 4K 60 video on there and no problem. It's got a 10 gig connection on it and it works very well. Like I don't have any complaints about it at all. Yeah, Internet Archive is supposedly 99 petabytes. That sounds probably true. I believe that. I think it's wild that we're selling petabytes of storage at a time to clients now. I mean, that's just wild to me. Where's some of the other ones we have? Hold on. I do have this as well. I gotta do a video on it. I have the Homelab 15 as well. So that's another one of the devices I have. That one is off at the very moment because I need to reload it again. I broke something. I don't remember what I broke. I was doing something. I got distracted and now it's broke. I reload it all the time because glutton for punishment, I guess. Here we go. There's one of the petabyte storage servers for one of our clients. We've sold them quite a few of these. Yeah, I need a nuclear reactor to power my AI research. That's a lot of drives, though, isn't it? Pretty cool, though. Yes, 45 drive server. One of their XLs. Yeah, so this is running True NAS. Yeah, so we run True NAS scale on these now. I was at the 45 drives office. That's what all these pictures are. These are all pictures I post to social media. There's me and Jason looking at the box at the chemical place. We couldn't resist. We just had to poke our heads in it. All the fun stuff. Oh yeah, I got these too. This is the rack at work. Those are the this is one of our labs at the office. How many do you know how many VDEVs per pool? Well, you're in luck. I have a video where I talk about all the variations because it's not one answer. It depends on the client's needs. So you generally don't want to go wider than maybe 12 or 15 on a VDEV. So you want the VDEVs as wide as necessary, but for performance, you make them smaller. So breaking them into many VDEVs loses some storage efficiency, gains you speed. Wider VDEVs can be a little bit slower, but better storage efficiency. So it comes down to what does the client need? Better storage efficiency or more speed? Usually with the large scale servers, it's more about storage efficiency. So they're usually set up in a little bit wider of a VDEV. What would be a good motherboard for a True NAS up to 24 bay? It doesn't take any, it's not the motherboard that's special. It's that you need enough cards with the PCI expanders on there to support all the drives. Some boards do have that built in, but on any server motherboard to be good, you probably want a lot of memory in it. If you want it to be fast, you can use ZFS with less memory. It's just not fast. I want to pull random drives from that like a chaos monkey. Yeah, that's a fun thing to do. I might do a video that should probably be a live stream to show how that works in real time. I've been working on that. I have this idea that I want to set up over here on there's a workbench over here, and I have another camera mount that goes over there. And the reason I say do it as a live stream is because everyone's like, it's staged if you don't do it as a live stream. But yeah, I being a chaos monkey is fun. We played a game called Ceph Jenga, where we took apart a Ceph cluster at 45 drives to show how resilient it can be. And ZFS is very resilient as well. There are some limitations, but that's what makes it kind of fun, is being able to do something like that to show people actually how it functions. What's what's the mains voltage of running at the chemical plant server racks? That's still 120. Yes. Many spinning drives is heavy, and so it's a weird kerchunk when all the drives kerchunk at the same time. It has like a resonance to it. It's pretty cool sounding for sure. Yes, AMD is better for the amount of PCI lanes for sure. When we do we call them the AI servers. I did a video on it about cracking passwords with the NVIDIA cards, but that's all AMD because the only thing that has enough PCI lanes for setting that up. Yeah, the cards that have the support in there. If you look, I think I have a photo of it real quick. Let me find it for you. Right here. View on StreamYard. So the motherboard in here is just a standard super micro board. The card, I believe, is an LSI. These are the PCI expanders, SAS expanders. I'm sorry, not PCI, but it's just like a normal super micro board. But these cards are what makes it do the magic. So you want cards like this that can handle all the drive hookups. In production, I get pissed if you pull the drives. As I'm OCD, I would want the smart uptime and powers up to match. Oh, yeah, mine do not. I should look. What is this system doing today? They said to replace a drive. Oh, good. No more drives theirs. But yeah, if you go to the storage and look at the drives on this one. Where's it at? Trust me, these do not have all the same times on them. Well, at least none of the drives have errors anymore. I just replaced all the drives that had errors on them. It was annoying. Because this system does have quite a few. See, if we go to storage, see, this is set up with 27 drives, 9 each, and 1 spare. I need to move more stuff over here because this isn't well utilized. We're only using about 7% of the storage on this. We're going to be using a lot more pretty soon, but right now it's only 7%. Got plenty of memory though. ECC, baby. People always think it's not. It's a nice to have. It's not absolutely necessary, but yes. Where's my other one? Make sure it's all up to date. Crashed. That seems bad. See if this will uncrash. Deploying. Running. All right. We solved the problem. You watch me do it live. My GUI for scale has been glitching since upgrading, waiting for my new NAS box to come before reinstalling TrueNAS. I've had other people say that. I haven't been able to reproduce it, but I've had people ask me if mine's glitchy, and I said no. And I have like 5 systems that we loaded with the latest version, and none of them have glitched at all. So you have the Minis Forums MSO1 and wanted to use a couple MD1200s. I have an LSI HBA. I don't know enough about the Minis Forums to answer that for you. So I don't know enough about that particular system. That if you post in a forum, someone will probably give you a good answer for it, but I don't have an answer. Well, I see that you're off and back soon, but I might just be off because I've been going for about an hour and 39 minutes. Not about, exactly an hour and 39 minutes. I seed ISOs. I help distribute Linux. That's what I'm doing. I have systems that are both official TrueNAS and non-official ones, and none of mine are glitchy. So I don't know what you have on your dashboard that's glitching. Because I mean, I'm always willing to help troubleshoot. I just need to be able to reproduce the problem to be able to get to it. But because a few people are mentioning it, there must be some scenario where the dashboard glitches. I just don't know what it is. Because Proxmox is not really here's some fighting words. Proxmox is not a type 1 hypervisor. It's Debian with Proxmox on top of it and KVM. No, the reality is XCP-ng treats the systems more like cattle than like pets. I always feel you have to spend more time customizing Proxmox to get things working versus XCP-ng you don't. There's a lot of little nuances. Proxmox, I've just not saying it doesn't scale. I'm saying I haven't seen it scale to the same size XCP-ng does. But run what makes you happy. Slow to respond and menu options disappear. Yeah, I mean, this system here. Running the latest version. So this is a 45 drive server. So electric eel, latest update, by the way. And the menus work fine. Like everything's, by the way, I'm accessing this across the VPN. So it's not only working, it's working across the VPN. And you can see it's working really smooth. All of mine are working like this. So I've not been able in any way to reproduce the problem. I've heard people say it, so I know it exists. I just don't know what you have to be doing to make it exist. That's the part I'm not clear on. What do you have to do to make that happen? You can tell though, like this one doesn't have many apps on it. My other one has a few apps on it over here. I even have virtualization on this one. Actually, I gotta fire up my virtualization system. There we go. Catching up all these. Thanks for your response. Much appreciated. If you want to use fiber for storage, well, XCVG is there any product for 45 drives you recommend for storage? I mean, I like the 45 drive servers. I like the IX Systems servers. We use a lot of Synology as well. All of them are good. Synology, 45 drives, IX Systems, they're all solid for storage servers. I stay away from the big, expensive proprietary companies. I don't know. I feel like HP Enterprise is where things go to die. I don't know. I mean, why are they buying it? They already have Aruba. I don't get it. But they bought a lot of stuff that died, so I don't really know why. I don't know if it's probably not good. Anytime big companies buy smaller companies, I think it's bad. Yeah, exactly. They're buying it because they have Mist, which is the Juniper has their Mist is Wi-Fi system. That's what it's called, right? I think that you're talking about, not the game. Yeah. Well, they go, HPE is where things go to die. They get monetized at Broadcom. They squeeze as much money as they can. Yeah, long live ProCurve. HPE, the Broadcom of physical things. Yep, that too. Yeah, they buy them for their patent pool and see how they can squeeze money out of them. I mean, that's really all they're doing. Let's buy this thing and squeeze all the life out of it. Let's squeeze the onion until there's no more onion left in it and it's just pulp, and then we'll throw it away. Oh man. You have Aruba Central at work at 250 access points. I don't know enough about it. I've never done any type of Aruba stuff at scale. But generally speaking, these companies aren't known for their extensive R&D. They usually like, hey, this company has a great name. We can ride on that great name of existing products for a long time. That's just the unfortunate nature of things. Got too many things open now. Close them all. Too many tabs. All right. Arista's, we do some Arista stuff too. Arista's fine. No headaches on Arista. Yeah, I'm off too because it's late. I've been working all day. I'm gonna go chill out. I'm gonna go sit on the couch, I think. Thank you all for joining. That's my it's I'm gonna go sit on the couch somewhere and just melt. I'm just gonna melt like this into the couch. So thank you all for joining. Greatly appreciate you being here. Glad you could join for the live stream. It was just absolute fun. And yeah, man. See you on the forums.lawrencesystems.com. Easy place to hit me up. I'm in there several times a day, having chats with people and all that fun stuff. So see you over there or see you in the next video. Take care.